Hey, my name is Ethan, and I'd like to talk about my new minimalistic puzzle game, Dots. Before watching this video, I recommend you play the game. It only has 12 short levels, should take you about 20 minutes. Everyone back? Okay, great. I'd like to start by telling you the story of Dots development. I had signed up for the 111th mini jam, which for the uninitiated, the mini jam is a 72-hour competition where participants are tasked with creating a game, given a theme, in this case colors, and a limitation that is announced at the start of the jam. So back to the story, I eagerly awaited the limitation announcement before the clock struck jam, and the limitation was, "You are your own enemy." Thought for a moment, and nothing came to me. Kept trying to brainstorm different ideas, but nothing stuck, so feeling defeated and fatigue wearing, I left the jam and decided to get some rest. As I was about to slip into the next morning, an idea hit me. What if the player controlled multiple color-coded versions of themselves? When two versions collide, the player will restart, so they'll be their own enemy. The next 3 days I worked to realize this idea. I submitted 46 minutes before the deadline and eagerly waited for the rating period to be over. The jam version of Dots was rated number 31 of 401 submissions. This meant that Dots scored in the top 8% of submissions, which is far better than my previous submissions. With a bolster ego, and a list of problems I wanted to fix, I decided I wanted to expand Dots and create a post-jam, fully realized version of my vision. Side note, the mini-jam gave me invaluable feedback, and if you want to participate in a game jam, I highly recommend mini-jam. It's hosted every other week, so there are plenty of opportunities to join in. I also find the themes and limitations to usually complement each other. Back on track. For this expansion I wanted to reinforce what I believe to be the 3 design pillars of Dots: readability, accessibility, and forcing the player to think unconventionally. First, I wanted to discuss readability. When creating Dots, I had 2 seemingly opposing desires for the game. I wanted an experienced player to be able to look at a level and solve it on their first try, but I also wanted an inexperienced player to be able to beat the game in its entirety. This is where I came up with the basic concepts I needed to teach each player for them to gain mastery. I call them the 5 rules of Dots. Knowing these 5 rules will allow you to solve any level. 1. You may move once per turn onto an adjacent white square. 2. You place multiple color-coded versions of yourself in sequence. I call them dots. 3. You must reach the goal of the same color as the dot you are currently controlling. 4. All dots replay the moves you made with them as you move with the currently controlled dot. And finally, 5. If 2 dots land on the same square, the level restarts. These 5 rules are taught to the player through quick and descriptive feedback and the design of the early levels. Side note, as a rule of thumb in game design, if you can teach a concept without explicitly stating it through text, do it. This will make the player feel as though they learned it rather than were told it. It tends to cement the concept in the player's mind better than a text tutorial can. Okay, let's get into the level design. The first level illustrates to the player 2 of the 5 rules immediately, 1 and 3. When the player moves right, they will see that they move 1 square at a time. If the player attempts to move up, down, or left, they will bump into the wall and hear a thud sound effect. This teaches the player the first rule without explicitly stating anything, and eventually, the player will move into the red goal as the currently controlled red dot. Then they will see a replay of their moves, alluding to the fact that dots will replay moves, and the player will hear a wind jingle before transitioning to level 2. Level 2 reinforces Level 1's concepts as well as adding 2 more. Rule 2 and Rule 4. The player must once again move the red dot to the red goal, but then the level seemingly resets and the player is controlling the blue dot. To make this as readable as possible, I changed the outline around the controlled dot to black and add a white circle in the middle. This indicates which dot is currently being controlled by the player. Once a player moves the blue dot, they will learn Rule 2 and see that 1. They can move up and down for the first time, reinforcing Rule 1. And 2. The red dot is also moving, not necessarily teaching, but instead suggesting Rule 4. Once a player moves the blue dot into the corresponding goal, the first real challenge of dots arises. Level 3. Level 3 is designed to test the player's knowledge of Rule 4 and teach the player Rule 5. Again, if you haven't played the game, I recommend you do. The game's pretty short and I'm about to spoil the solution to this level. Okay, back to the design. The immediate action most players will take is to use what they learned already and move the red dot to the red goal. Now they just have to move the blue dot to the blue goal. Easy, right? But this is where their previous knowledge led them astray. When 2 dots land on the same square, a negative beep is heard and the level resets. Then they might think, okay, well I just have to dodge the red dot with the blue dot and give it room to make it to the goal. Another wrong answer, as when they try this solution they run out of room once again, and the 2 dots land on the same square, resetting the level. The correct solution to this level is to instead dodge the blue dot with the red dot before the blue dot gets a chance to move. This forward thinking teaches the player Rule 5 and thus gives them the tools to beat the rest of the game. These design considerations keep dots easy to read and learn. With that said, some folks may not be able to beat the game for other reasons. This is why I focused on accessibility. I wanted dots to be accessible to as many people as possible, so the first thing I added was controller support. This may not seem like much of an accessibility feature, but given the variety of controllers people use to play games, I think it adds avenues for players who could otherwise not play to enjoy the game. It also gives the player the opportunity to use an input method they may be more comfortable with, which adds to many players' experience with dots. Another feature I added was a colorblind mode. The jam version of dots did not have this feature, which made it close to impossible for some players to experience the game. The readability of the game was heavily influenced by the quality of color vision the player had. Even with a simple colorblind mode like in dots, it makes it much easier for players with color blindness to read the game. The player also gets immediate feedback on what colorblind mode does when they turn it on. The title screen, which helps to allude to some of the rules of dots, also shows the colorblind mode. The last way I wanted to make dots accessible is through the game's difficulty. I truly believe everyone can finish dots. Hell, even my mom, who has no gaming experience outside of Candy Crush, was able to finish dots. Granted, it took her almost an hour. She wanted to quit, but she finished it. And every time she finished a level that took her a while, she gave me an excited look and pumped her fist in accomplishment. The jam version was easy enough for inexperienced gamers, but not hard enough for gamers with more experience to enjoy, and I see this as an extreme shortcoming of the jam version. The main point of criticism given in the comments was that the game was too easy to beat using unfud methods or cheese strategies. This is a serious issue as it went directly against the last pillar of Dot's design, unconventional thinking. When I designed dots, I wanted players to have to think in an unconventional way to solve puzzles in the game. The cheese strategies actively went against this goal for skilled players, but allowed players who were less skilled to still finish the game. Another game design side note, players as a general rule will always do what's easiest unless they're incentivized against it. For skilled players who don't need cheat strategies to beat the game, this is a very boring way to play. So this was a problem affecting skilled players negatively because they were not incentivized to do otherwise. This needed a solution, and my solution is a rating system. When the player beats a level, the largest amount of moves they made with any dot is saved as their score. The score is then used to find the rating. I set a 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star score for each level. If the player's score is less than or equal to the 3-star score, they get 3 stars, or dots in the level select screen. If the score is over the 3-star score, then the 2-star score will be checked. And then, if the score is still too high, the 1-star score is checked, with the worst possible score being no stars. If the player has the C rating setting enabled, they can see the rating immediately. If they don't, they can go back to level select and see each level's rating. This way, players have some, admittedly little besides a little Easter egg if they 100% the game, incentive to play the game the intended, and for skilled players, more enjoyable way. With the rating system in place, I feel that Dots rides the fine line of accessibility and difficulty, allowing anyone to beat Dots, while still providing an extra challenge for those who seek it. Dots is my first major game release, and for that reason alone, I'm proud of it. The game is simple, short, and it's not in much puzzle complexity, but even so, I think I was able to execute on my original idea for the game and produce an enjoyable puzzle experience. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you have any feedback on what I can improve, please leave it in the comments. And if you have any feedback on the game, make sure to leave it in the itch page comments. If you like what you saw, then you can always hit that subscribe button, or like. And in case you haven't played the game and still want to, there's a link in the description. Again, thanks for watching and hope you have a great day.